Craig. Marius.
Good morning.
Morning, are you?
Here are your documents.
I don't think I'm not an interpreter here.
Oh, okay.
I'm just checking here, but you can just
I'll leave
drop
them
it.
on. No, they're there on the chair. They'll know.
Okay. Channel 1. Channel 1. Channel 1. Channel 1. Hey. Yeah, Townsend? Okay.
Dear delegates, thank you very much for your patience. We'll be starting in a minute or two. Good morning, colleagues, and apologies for the delay. I trust everyone got some sleep last night and you're ready for us to finish the remaining work we have in this working group. So during our session on Saturday night, we reviewed and approved CRPs on item 16B on subnational governments, cities and other local authorities, item 9D on Agenda Plan of Action, item 9C and 13C on communication, and item 15B on cooperation. Due to insufficient time, we were unable to consider CRP 11 on COP item 13B, knowledge management, which we will review today. In addition, we will consider CRP 10 on COP item 16A on mainstreaming. We will also be considering CRPs on the Nagoya Protocol item 13, Global Biodiversity Framework, and on Nagoya Protocol item 14, Digital Sequencing Information, and on COP item 12B, the financial mechanism. Those CRPs will be posted shortly, so please keep an eye on the website for those items. When we get to the Nagoya Protocol items, I will be handing over to Marie Haroldstadt. Are they all posted? Is the financial mechanism on? Sorry, just to note that the Nagoya Protocol CRPs are now posted on the website. And following the consideration of all the CRPs, we will then consider the report of the working group. Since our meeting on Saturday night, a contact group for item 12B on the financial mechanism met for its fourth time yesterday. Therefore, I will ask the co-chairs of this contact group, Mr. Greg Fillick, Canada, and Ms. Laura Bermudez of Colombia, to report on their work. Greg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, yesterday the contact group on financial mechanism met for the fourth and final time. As a result, we are going to be pleased to present a CRP, which is pending now. So we won't have the opportunity until later to review that CRP. But just to summarize, a very constructive group spirit continued throughout the past week, and we made good progress towards the mandate you gave us, which was to consider and finalize the draft decision on the financial mechanism. I'll note in advance of receiving the CRP, we expect to see a few square brackets in the text. Coming out of the contact group, there were a fair number of square brackets, which were placeholder placeholders pending decisions in plenary, including the L documents on the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and resource mobilization. Of course, these were adopted early this morning. So the contact group had agreed that the Secretariat would lift brackets around placeholder text once it was finalized, making any appropriate edits to ensure that any changes are consistently reflected in the decision on financial mechanism. So we expect to see that take place in the CRP. There are, apart from that, 4 remaining brackets of text for which the contact group could not agree, but I'll wait, I think, till we see the CRP to make any mention of that. I guess in closing, that's our report. Thanks to all who participated in the contact group. Thanks to my co-chair, Laura Bermudez of Colombia, the Jeff Secretariat, and of course the Secretary of the CBD, who provided very good support. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Greg and Laura, and for all your hard work, and I'd like to reiterate my thanks as well to the members of the contact group for your efforts on this. Delegates, I'm afraid we have a small technical problem up here on the podium. We can't see the screen, so I can't see who might be asking for the floor, and while that would make for a very efficient session this morning, getting through the CRPs, I think we'd better wait until that is fixed before we continue. So bear with us for a few minutes. Thank you. All right, dear delegates, we're ready to go. We will now move to the consideration of the CRPs. I'd like to submit CRP 11 on agenda item 13B, knowledge management and the clearinghouse mechanism, for your review and approval. This item was discussed in the contact group, and compromise was reached on the text except for 3 sets of square brackets in paragraph 3, which are linked to resource mobilisation, including reference to Article 20 of the Convention, 2 sets of square brackets in paragraph 5 on whether to welcome or take note of one of the initiatives, and whether to invite donors and multilateral organisations to provide international cooperation. So let us start with the first preambular paragraph. Can we approve the first preambular paragraph that reads recalling decisions 1425, etc., etc.? I see no objections. Can we approve the second preambular paragraph also recalling the work programme? This paragraph is approved. Can we approve the third preambular paragraph emphasising the critical importance of? The third preambular paragraph is approved. I'm sorry. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, colleagues. Unfortunately, we have some issues regarding paragraph 3, particularly the expression data sharing policies without the the mentioning of...
Brazil, we're on preambular paragraph 3.
Oh, yeah, no, oh, so sorry.
Can we come back to... Yes, thank you. So I take it that preambular paragraph 3 is approved. Thank you very much. Can we move to approve paragraph 1 that reads, invites biodiversity conventions, etc.? Paragraph 1 is approved. Can we approve paragraph 2, takes note of the outcomes and key messages, etc.? Paragraph 2 is approved. Now, paragraph 3, where we have some obvious difficulties and square brackets. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for my previous intervention. Actually, we have some questions regarding this paragraph, and we simply prefer to have it deleted at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Could I ask the floor whether it would be acceptable to proceed on this process, on this basis? Oh, it's going to be a long morning. Could we simply delete paragraph 3 and move forward on that basis? I see no objections to that. Paragraph 3 is therefore deleted. Thank you very much. So moving to paragraph 4. And I'm going to propose taking paragraph 4 in its totality. Can we... I see Switzerland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Switzerland would like to suggest to mention or to take note of another initiative, because recent developments made it clear that in Para 1 invited biodiversity-related conventions, they also have to be integrated in the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework in a very soft structure. And this structure is the Bern process that is initiated by the UNEP that allows these MEAs to exchange information on how to implement, but also, of course, relevant to data. And in several places in this decision, we refer how important it is to have the accurate data to help us to improve our implementation. And therefore, we would like in 4 a new B and add the UNEP-initiated Bern process. The Bern process is to many of us known. It is also referenced in the decision that we will soon adopt on cooperation between the biodiversity-related MEAs. And therefore, it's nothing new. It's nothing that should surprise us, and we should still take note of this Bern process in order to be aware that there will be a kind of platform for the MEAs to discuss data exchange, knowledge exchange, and how to best implement altogether the GBF. So we would like to have this addition. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Switzerland. So I take it that you're proposing this as a paragraph 4, subparagraph D, and that it would read the UNEP-initiated Bern process. Thank you very much. We will come back to that if necessary, but can I give the floor, please, to the European Union?
Good morning, Madam Chair. We have no opposition to the addition by Switzerland, but we like to update some links, because yesterday there was a ceremony for the Global Knowledge Support Service for Biodiversity, and the link which is in the footnote should be replaced with the following link: https://gkssb.chm-cbd-live CBD-Live.net. That's the first change that we want to propose. Then, in small, it's paragraph 5 now, and I honestly struggle to understand why
sorry, European Union,
sorry, that's
we
5,
haven't got to paragraph 5
sorry,
yet.
I'll stay there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, colleagues. So we have the proposal from Switzerland for an additional subparagraph D on the UNEP-initiated burn process, and the proposal from the European Union for updating of the website, which the Secretariat has taken note of. Can I assume that there are no objections to those two proposals? In which case, paragraph 4 is adopted as amended. Thank you very much. Now, moving to paragraph 5, which has square brackets. European Union, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we all remember the discussion that we had late at night about welcoming, taking note. So I decided I'll try to see what this Amazon Regional Observatory was all about. So I found a website, and I would like to add a footnote with a link to this website, which is the following: https://ORAOTCA.org/, so that we know at least what we're talking about, because that wasn't clear to us before. We also understood while visiting this website that it has been established already quite some time ago, and that is why we would like to propose to delete the wording "the establishment of." And then I'm looking at the party who wanted to keep welcoming instead of taking note as all the other initiative, if they can be flexible and also accept taking note. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Chair, sorry.
Thank you very much. So that footnote, I think the Secretariat has, the Secretariat has that. Do I take it that with those changes, then the brackets could be lifted from the paragraph? Although noting that there are, the bracketing is somewhat unclear on this paragraph. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And also, I would like to express thanks to our colleagues from the European Union for improving this paragraph. Of course, we would prefer to have welcome, but in the spirit of compromise and to show flexibility, we can take note of this initiative in the Amazon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Can I take it then that all the brackets have been lifted from this paragraph, and it would read, takes note of the Amazon Regional Observatory of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, which includes information and data for conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, and invites donors and multilateral organizations to provide international cooperation for strengthening these initiatives as well as other relevant knowledge platforms. Is that acceptable? European Union, please.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the flexibility from Brazil. We were just wondering if we shouldn't also put it then as a little, we already have C, we added D, so maybe E under paragraph, no? Okay, then I'm not going to propose it. Thank you, Brazil. I'll show flexibility as well.
Thank you very much, and I'm enjoying the spirit of flexibility in the room. So paragraph 5 is therefore approved with the removal of the brackets in the paragraph and the amendments as proposed on the floor. Thank you very much. Could we move now to paragraph C, takes note of the progress. Can this paragraph be approved? I see no objections. Paragraph 6 is approved. Can we move to paragraph 7, decides to extend the work program? Can we approve this paragraph? Paragraph is approved. Can we move to paragraph 8, requests the informal advisory group? I see no objections. Paragraph 8 is approved. Can we approve paragraph 9, urges parties and invites other governments? Paragraph 9 is approved. Can we approve the chapeau to paragraph 10, requests the Executive Secretary subject to the availability of resources? Chapeau to paragraph 10 is approved. Can we move to subparagraph A, to further develop in collaboration with parties? See no objections. Subparagraph A is approved. Can we approve subparagraph B, including 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as a whole? I see no objections. Subparagraph B is approved. Can we approve subparagraph C, to further develop? Subparagraph C is approved. Subparagraph D, to continue collaboration. That subparagraph is approved. Subparagraph E, to promote the use of relevant digital technologies. Subparagraph E is approved. Subparagraph F, to prepare in collaboration, etc. Subparagraph F is approved. And subparagraph G, to submit a progress report. Subparagraph G is approved. That brings us to the end of the CRP. With this, can we approve CRP 11? I see no objections. CRP 11 is approved. Thank you very much. So we'll move to CRP on CRP 10 on item 16A, the long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming, in a minute. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes while we have the change of Secretariat staff on the podium. Thank you. Sorry, while we're waiting, just to note that, of course, an L document will be prepared for consideration by the COP on CRP 11, and to note that the financial mechanism CRP has been uploaded, and it is CRP 12. Thank you. Dear delegates, I now submit for your review and approval CRP 10 on the long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming biodiversity within and across sectors. The contact group on mainstreaming met twice, co-chaired by Stanislas Smilba of Gabon and Carlos Albuquerque of the EU, and addressed most brackets in a spirit of compromise. Remaining brackets in paragraphs 5 and 8, chapeau and sub-item A, should be resolved with deliberations on the two central issues, the terms in which the long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming and its action plan would be forwarded to the subsidiary body on implementation, and the ways and means for an intersessional process. The formulation of takes note of the voluntary and interim long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming, and the first paragraph of the introduction to the annex clarifying that it is not a negotiated outcome of the Conference of the Parties, is subject to further review by parties and should not be considered as setting a precedent for other decisions of the Convention, are intended to allow parties to find consensus. So let us start with the first preambular paragraph, recalling Article 6b of the Convention. Can we approve the first preambular paragraph? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Before we start the consideration of the CRP and go paragraph by paragraph, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate on your guidance of the previous agenda items we have in this working group 1 that was the most important, and we are really grateful for your efforts moving us toward the successful deliverable of important documents. And we understand that we have very few items on our agenda to conclude your work, but I regret to inform that due to the lack of time to properly discuss this document, Brazil cannot support the CRP as presented. I recall that discussions on the CRP stopped what is now paragraph 8, letter A or B, and the annex, that's the most important element of this document, was not negotiated, and Brazil has several reservations on concepts, terms, and suggestions contained therein. My understanding is that we would need 3-4 hours of discussion, like commonly has in contact groups, to consider this document para by para. So in order to recognize that SBI did not have time to discuss this, both sessions of CG were not also enough for the consideration of this document. I take the opportunity to take the experience of what happened in Working Group 2 and request that you simply defer this issue to COP16 for the appropriate consideration of this important item. And I do understand that for several delegations here, it's a very important item. For Brazil, it is as well. And that's why it needed to be discussed among parties. So Brazil could not accept at this point to simply incorporate in a CBD decision an annex that was not negotiated. We do understand the chapeau that you have mentioned, Madam Chair, but unfortunately that does not provide the necessary level of confidence to continue and have an appropriate discussion on this. So my suggestion would be to go quickly on this agenda item, is to keep the 3 preambulatory paragraphs that were originally in this CRP, the recalling Article 6b, the recalling the critical importance of mainstreaming and emphasizing the importance of intensified mainstreaming. Then we could keep the paragraph 1 that welcomes the work of IAG, but then what I recommend in a way to find a consensus here and avoid a very long and I would understand not fruitful discussions among delegations here, is just to request parties and invite other governments and international organizations to submit their views on the report SBD-SBI 3/13, and the Secretariat to compile their views and inform this compilation to SBI. And then a third paragraph requesting SBI to further review the item based on the views compiled by the Secretariat at its meeting held before the 16th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. I think this is a very easier way to go forward, and we keep this agenda item under consideration. It will allow parties to pay more attention, give more attention, and reflect better on what's our common intention to move forward on this agenda item, because as my delegation have consistently stated, there are many elements in here that goes way beyond the mandate and the scope of the convention. I hope my suggestions are acceptable to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Could I ask whether there are any views by parties on the proposed approach, way forward by Brazil? Or are there any objections to the way forward proposed by Brazil? Argentina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would also like to congratulate you for your patience and your hard work throughout this conference. Argentina agrees with what has just been stated by Brazil. We believe that to strengthen the decisions that are adopted by COP, it's important that these be discussed in their entirety. And we understand that given the time constraints, this was not possible. We also have many reservations regarding certain concepts in the decision, especially in the annex. And we consider that COP would be approving an annex, a decision which to us is problematic and does not reflect the competencies of the COP and needs to be discussed in our fora. And this is the last day, so there's no time for these discussions. And we know that these discussions would not be quick or easy ones. Therefore, as far as we're concerned, the Brazil proposal is very effective and respects the timelines of the COP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Argentina. I see Peru. Peru, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We understand the position of Brazil. We've participated in the meetings of the contact group, and we would like to voice the Peru's concern about not approving this document, which has a vision to generate the synergies and the work that needs to be done under Article 6 of the Convention. And the view that we need to have is more than just integration of complementarity. This plan was going to help, and we hope that in the assessments that done, the parties will be able to express openly this vision of integration that is necessary. Peru would like to leave it recorded that the document has many sections that actually do speak to this vision and work with the sectors, but it's also important to take into account the progress. I remember in 2005 there was an enabling activity for the 3 conventions. And if there are indeed synergies on basic themes, we have to go beyond that. Because biodiversity and its risks really bring out the impacts that there are in the other conventions. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Peru. Your comments have been noted and recorded. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mexico would also like to thank you for your good work during the discussions of Working Group 1. We also support what Peru has said. We think that the integration of biodiversity is one of the factors that is most important for attaining the sustainable use of biodiversity in our countries. And therefore, we would like to have it recorded that Mexico does also participate in the contact group. And we had thought we had arrived at a consensus with the preambular which Argentina proposed and which was amended with the opinions of other countries and clearly expressed that the annex had not been reviewed in the group because it was a very difficult contact group and there was no time to review it, but that it would stay there for future revisions once the architect was established. Moreover, the Secretariat clarified that this annex was also submitted for peer review and received comments from 15 countries, and if I'm not mistaken, some 15 observers as well. So we would like it recorded that the document was indeed submitted for peer review. We do understand that there may well have been countries that did not have an opportunity to answer the notification from the Secretariat, but the document was submitted for discussion and the Secretariat did compile all of the different viewpoints received. We would also like it to be noted how important it is to continue discussing and integrate biodiversity in other sectors. And we always have Target 14 on the integration of biodiversity, which was adopted yesterday. And that this working group will have to continue exploring this theme so that the countries receive support and advice on the best ways for the sustainable use of biodiversity in other sectors. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mexico, and your comments have been noted for the record. Could I now give the floor, please, to the European Union?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and from the EU and its 27 member states, also thanks for the work that you did on this document. I would like to align with what my colleague from Mexico just said. I think we had 6 hours of discussion on this document, and I had the idea that there was almost a consensus that we wanted to keep this work on the table and provide for some further work to be done and have a decision taken at COP16. I think that's not that far apart from what Brazil just proposed, and we have all the text at the table here. So there are just a few brackets to be lifted. I think we are ready to do that, and I would really hope that we can work with the text that we have before us now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European Union. So my understanding of the comments made by the delegates of Peru and Mexico was that they were not, while disappointed, they were not necessarily objecting to the way forward proposed by Brazil, but I take it that your preference is to work with the original text of the CRP that we have before us, and rather than the proposal by Brazil. Is that the case, European Union?
Yes, indeed. I think that would be the easiest way through, because we have the text ready.
Well, I'm not sure if it will be the easiest way, given that we have objecting parties. So we will have to find a way forward on this, because we will have to determine what the COP will have to take a decision on this one way or another and determine the way forward. I see Philippines. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines would also like to thank the hard work of this working group, especially the chair, in achieving the milestones that we have achieved so far in many of the agenda items. And as Peru and Mexico and EU said, we also support their statements. The Philippines has been part of the informal advisory group on mainstreaming, which worked on this framework together with the CBD Secretariat. So we recognize that this is a continuing process. We support the creation of the ATEG to continue the work to develop options to assist the parties in operationalizing this mainstreaming framework and integrating biodiversity into our national biodiversity action plans and development plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippines. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The UK would also like to thank all of the hard work achieved in this working group, and we agree with the comments of Mexico, Peru, the EU and the Philippines. It is important that we come out of COP15 with a mainstreaming element that supports all parties as we begin to implement the new framework. We had thought we had engaged very proactively with all parties on the development of this text, and we would strongly like to see this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. Bolivia, you have the floor.
Gracias. Thank you very much, Chair. Bolivia supports Brazil's proposal, which is also supported by other countries. It appears to us to be the most constructive in regard to this agenda item. It does deserve the importance of mainstreaming of biodiversity with other sectors, and it emphasizes the importance of the sum as well as contains all the details in the annex. So therefore, we believe that countries need to deepen their reflections, their viewpoints and visions on the annex, and therefore Brazil's proposal for us is extremely relevant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bolivia. And Brazil, please.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Thank you for the delegates that took the floor, both to support my proposal as those two willing to continue discussion. As I've said, and my delegation have said in these discussions, the issue is not whether this is important or not. The issue is whether there is a common understanding of inclusivity and all concerns are taken to board. And my delegation has also consistently said there are several elements that goes way beyond the scope and mandate of CBD. And as my colleague from Argentina also said, they are more appropriate for to discuss these issues. And it was one of the main interventions that you said in the beginning of this contact group. So we're being extremely flexible to allow this discussion to happen here. And we're willing to continue this demonstration, this goodwill, to allow the discussions to be settled here. So I request our goodwill to be shared by others, and that we can agree to continue discussions in the future. I think that it's the easier and quicker way to move forward in this issue. I don't think they would have enough time to discuss here in this working group all the elements, and I must say my delegation has several elements, in particular in the annex, that would, and I don't think also they would simply be agreed to other parties, they would demand discussion. So it's an appeal, and I hope that you understand the situation you're facing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Brazil. I think we're all agreed that this important work needs to continue in some form, and we are only really debating the form in which we send it forward for further work. So Brazil has made a proposal for further work. And as I understand it, that was to request parties to submit their views to SBI 3 to the Executive Secretary. The Executive Secretary would then compile those views, and SBI 5 would then further review the long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming. I wonder if a compromise might be to, in addition to that, to also establish or continue work under an informal advisory group in the interim, whether that would be an acceptable way forward. Brazil?
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I'm sorry to insist on this, but we are being asked too much. We are being asked too much. And I hope all parties understand that they are asking too much from our side. It's way beyond the mandated scope of this convention. And there should be appropriate discussion among parties to have a clear understanding what this ATAG will do, on what basis, what's relationship with other fora. It's not something that you can simply agree on a shake of hands. It demands appropriate discussions and a better understanding of the issue. Brazil is being asked too much from others. I hope it's understandable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Mexico, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Mexico has said repeatedly, we consider that for the very reasons that Brazil has just expressed, it is very necessary that this working group be struck to examine the dimensions that Brazil has raised. And it is very necessary to identify the best ways to mainstream biodiversity in the other sectors without necessarily affecting the other sectors. But up until the time we decide that it is imperative to mainstream considerations of sustainable use of biodiversity in other sectors, we will continue to be an isolated sector with few resources. and without the ability to collaborate with other sectors. For this reason, we insist that it is very necessary to establish this working group. Well, that would get established in keeping with the rules of procedure for the ATEGs, ensuring inclusivity, the microphone of the English booth is on and the interpreter is working. She regrets if the voice hasn't come through.
Saying they can't hear. Could the technicians please look into this? Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Mexico. Please, just continue.
As I was saying, for the reasons already expressed, we deem it very important to continue the discussions on this theme, specifically through the establishment of an ATEG, which would ensure that it is a process driven by countries, ensuring representation as well as all concerns of countries, and these be taken into account. We also are of the opinion that Mexico and other countries that have worked on this theme have been very clear and are asking for the flexibility to continue to work on this theme, which we believe of utmost importance. We have to accept that we need to take into account the mainstreaming of biodiversity and other sectors, and it would be very difficult to achieve the targets of this new plan that we have developed by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It seems to me that we are unlikely to resolve this issue through statements from the floor, so I am inclined to suggest a small that the interested parties get together for 5 or 10 minutes to discuss this, but I do see requests from the floor from others. So China, please.
Thank you, Chair. China has heard all the interventions, and I thank all the hard work. The mainstreaming of biodiversity is very important for implementation of the framework. China suggests that we can adopt the elements on which we can have a consensus on. For those contentious elements, we can put them in brackets, which can be further considered at COP16. It could be a flexible reference for the parties to implement the framework. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, China. Argentina, please.
Madam Chair, sorry, I'm going to speak in English just in case. Again, we do agree that this is important, but we cannot adopt decisions that haven't been fully negotiated by parties. And also there was a peer review for the annex, but for example, a lot of important objections from Argentina were not taken into account, and we still see those troublesome concepts for our delegation. Again, we are not discussing that this is not important, but we do think that if it were of the interest, we should have had more time to negotiate amongst parties. As this has not been the case, we are not in a position to accept the whole document as it is, and the annex without our considerations being taken care of. So we do think that deferring this to the next COP is the most efficient way. We did this with climate change, and of course nobody can argue the importance of that subject and the interrelationship that it has with biodiversity. So we see no objections, we see no impediment, sorry, no, not objections, to do the same here. So again, we support the suggestion made by Brazil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Argentina. And I think we can all agree that we would have liked more time to discuss many issues, but that we had certain priorities. Certain priorities at this COP. Could I ask Canada and followed by Iran, and then I would like to please close the speakers list so that you can undertake informal consultations for some minutes to see if we can come to a resolution of this issue. So Canada, please, briefly.
Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Canada is committed to the implementation of mainstreaming, which all parties have agreed to undertake as part of Target 14 of our newly adopted Global Biodiversity Framework. The voluntary and interim long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming is the tool we all need to help determine how we implement Target 14. We support the interventions of Peru, Mexico, EU, and the UK that proposed we work through the original text. Given the views expressed by the group, we could perhaps propose a compromise where we discuss the establishment of the ATEG but remove the content in the annex from the decision. Given the progress that we've made, we urge parties not to track backwards and to move forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Canada. And finally, Iran.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Iran also support the proposal of Brazil and Argentina that it needs further work because the mainstreaming is very important and we need to work more on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Iran. Well, I'm glad that we have a consensus that mainstreaming is important and needs further work. Could I please ask that Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Iran, Mexico, Peru, Philippines, UK, Canada, China, perhaps, but open to anyone who wishes to take the next 10 minutes, I hope, to consult on the way forward. Perhaps the proposal by Canada might provide a useful way forward. And I see Colombia requesting the floor. Colombia, perhaps if you could join would it be acceptable for you to join the group? And the group will be in this room, so anyone will be able to join. Yes, you don't need to ask for the floor to ask if you can join the group. Japan, I assume that is. So Colombia and Japan, do you still want to take the floor, or do you just want? Right, sorry, Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair. Colombia just wanted to state that we consider this to be one of the main and most important topics to be discussed during the COP, especially because it's a base for the implementation of the global framework. We do understand the preventions mentioned by other countries like Brazil and Argentina. We do understand. But we also think it's important to work on this and sooner than the next COP. Therefore, we're willing to do intersessional work and maybe point towards SOBSTA a bit before and to continue to work on this and make it a very robust and substantial document and have it include the elements that we all need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colombia. I see Japan, and then I do ask parties, please, to refrain from taking the floor after Japan. Thank you. Japan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Japan would like to support the Canadian opinions. Mainstreaming is very important, and Target 14 as well. And Japan would like to join into the meeting of today's concerning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. All right. Could I ask interested parties, please, to gather at the edge of the room and come up with a solution that everyone will be a little bit unhappy with and a little bit happy with, please. Thank you. And sorry, just to note that after we've dealt with the mainstreaming agenda item, we will then move to the Nagoya Protocol items, and then after that to the financial mechanism. So I hope that's acceptable. Thank you. Yeah. Could I ask the members of the small group if you are reaching a consensus? Because if not, we're going to have to move on. Right, dear delegates, could I ask you please to resume your seats? Right, could I please ask if somebody could report back on the outcome of those discussions, which I hope there's been a solution found. But if somebody could please confirm whether or not that is the case. Thank you. European Union or Brazil, Argentina? So I understand that South Africa will report back on the discussions. Is that the case? In that case, could I give South Africa the floor, please?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. The group met and we had a lengthy discussions with a number of interventions that were coming from different angles. However, we have decided on the following approach, which include the process of having a peer review, then consider the establishment of an online forum that will then discuss elements of the peer review process, after which a recommendation will be made to SBI 3 for review. It is intended that the SBI, based on the outcomes of the review, may wish to establish an ad hoc technical expert group for further development of the long-term approach. However, we still need to discuss in terms of what will go as the terms of reference for this particular ITEC, which can be considered during SBI 4. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It sounds as if some progress has been made, so I'm very grateful to you, but clearly some more work, some more discussions need to be undertaken. We do need to move on to other agenda items. So with your indulgence, what I propose is that we suspend the discussions on mainstreaming for now. We move on to the Nagoya Protocol, CRPs, the two of those. We then move to the financial mechanism, and we come back to mainstreaming at the end of this session to resume those discussions. I hope that's acceptable. I realise it means that those of you who thought you might get to lunch on mainstream after the mainstreaming session might have to wait a little bit longer. But in the interests of ensuring that we don't lose the opportunity to adopt a financial mechanism, CRP, I think it's important to move on. We'll just change the Secretariat staff and So, colleagues, for the next items on our agenda for today, agenda item 13 and 14 of the COP-MOP to the Nagoya Protocol, I will hand over my chairing duties to Ms. Marie Hallstatt of Norway, who was elected as substitute chair of Working Group 1 when the working group is addressing items under the Nagoya Protocol. Marie, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to join you today to chair discussions on the items under the meeting of the parties to the Nagoya Protocol. We will first turn to CRP 2, prepared for agenda item 13, on enhancing the implementation of the Nagoya Protocol in the context of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. As you will recall, at our first session, held on 7th December, the chair indicated that this agenda item would be considered at a later stage, pending developments under item 9A of the COP, which was adopted early this morning. Therefore, our intention today is to consider the CRP prepared for this agenda item in view of sending it on to plenary as an AL document. This CRP was prepared on the basis of the decision contained in the compilation of draft decisions CBD/NP/MOP/4/1/add5, and on the basis of the note by the Executive Secretary, document CBD/MP/MOP/4/9, made available ahead of the meeting. As this CRP is very short, I would like to consider it as a whole. It is making a cross-reference to the Global Biodiversity Framework adopted under the Conference of the Parties to the Convention, so I hope it can be acceptable to everyone. I propose that we approve this CRP and forward it to plenary as an AL document. Is this acceptable to everyone? I see no requests for the floor. Thank you. CRP 2 is approved. We now turn to CRP 1 under agenda item 14 of the meeting of the parties to the Nagoya Protocol. We had previously decided to address this item once the contact group established under the related COP agenda item had had a chance to complete its work. As we all know, LDOC on DSI was adopted early this morning. Therefore, I am suggesting that we approve the CRP today so that it may be transferred to plenary as an L document. As this decision is short and focuses on procedural aspects, I am suggesting to approve it as a whole. Can we agree to approve this CRP? I see no requests for the floor. Thank you. CRP 1 is approved. An L document will be prepared for consideration by the COP-MOP. With this, I hand over the floor to Ms. Patterson to continue our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie. We will now turn, dear delegates, to CRP 12 on item 12B, the financial mechanism. And I now submit it for your review and approval. Some elements in the document had been bracketed because they were linked to the outcomes of other ongoing negotiations and particularly related to resource mobilisation. The Secretariat, in producing the CRP, a number of brackets that were pending other discussions have been lifted, but there are some remaining brackets in Annex 1, paragraphs 10, 11 and 15, and Annex 3 in 1B. I understand that the co-chairs of the contact group, Greg Philic and Laura Bermudez, have some suggestions on the way forward on those paragraphs, and I am going to invite Ms. Bermudez to take the floor to outline what the way forward might be, and we will then go through the financial mechanism CRP paragraph by paragraph. So, Columbia, you have the floor. Sorry, I see the Russian Federation. Columbia. Columbia first, followed by Russian Federation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. My co-chair and I has been revising the document just posted, and we has observed that we still have 4 remaining brackets in the text, and we want to suggest some solutions to clean the text and leave the brackets on it. So if you allow me, I can go one by one. Thank you. In Annex 1, paragraph 10, there is 2 brackets for alternative text. The brackets are around benefit biodiversity and are also, and the other bracket is are nature positive. While the term nature positive was considered in the draft of the GEF text, it is not found in it's not found in L25 on GBF. So our suggestion is to delete are nature positive and remove brackets around benefit biodiversity and are also. In Annex 1, paragraph 11, we still have 4 brackets in the middle of the paragraph and at the end, noting that targets 8 and 11 in the L25 on GBF include the term nature-based solutions and/or ecosystem-based approaches. We are suggesting remove brackets around and or, delete the text in the last set of the brackets. All agree that the subject matter is important, but it does not fit well in this paragraph, and the intent is capture the UN language elsewhere, which must be respected. And finally, remove brackets around the entire paragraph 11. In Annex 1, paragraph 15, there's still 2 brackets, and it's in the same way we have another 4 brackets around the text in Annex 3, paragraph 1B, and those 2 brackets are related to the listing of countries. There were long discussions on how to refer to support for developing countries in Annex 1, paragraph 15, and in Annex 3, paragraph 1B. Some called for consistency with a preamble or paragraph in L28 on capacity building. Others oppose this approach and support alternate previous standard decision text and text that is also found in Goal D in L25 on GBF and Annex 1 of L29 on our resource mobilization use the phrase, quote, developing countries, in particular the least developed countries and small islands, developing states, as well as countries with economies in transition. We know, Madam Chair, that there is not a perfect solution, but we believe that the GBF and the resource mobilizational documents provide the best guidance. So our suggestion is to remove brackets around the last set of the brackets and delete the text in other brackets. That said, noting the importance of the issue and opposing views on that, the Financial Mechanism Contact Group support that the co-chair bring this issue to the attention of the Bureau for consideration. We have sent such a message to the Working Group 1 Chair, to you, Madam Chair. While we appreciate that there is unlikely time for the Bureau to properly consider this issue before the conclusion of COP15, we believe that it should be considered by CBD in the future. So in this line, for the other brackets remain in Annex 3, 1B, as I said, we suggest to remove the brackets around the last set of brackets and delete text in other brackets. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bermudez, and I hope that that has helped provide a way forward for our discussions today, and we will discuss those particular proposals and the brackets fully when we go through paragraph by paragraph, but we felt that it was just helpful to outline a possible way forward before we started our deliberations. I see that the Russian Federation is asking for the floor, so Russian Federation, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Am I understanding correctly that we can make comments on the first paragraph, or do you want me to wait for a little bit?
Thank you, Russian Federation. I think the first preambular paragraph would be a very good place to start. So I invite the room to tell me if we can approve preambular paragraph 1. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. Our comments are on the first paragraph. We have repeatedly said earlier that we are grateful and we highly value the work of...
The interruption, but are you talking about the first preambular paragraph or operative paragraph 1?
We're speaking of the first paragraph of the preamble, which begins with the word reaffirming.
My apologies then. Please continue.
As I was saying, we acknowledge and we welcome the significant role played by the Global Environmental Fund in assisting developing countries and all those countries who have the right to receive funds from the GEF so as to ensure the sustainable use and conservation of biodiversity. We stress that the GEF is an official mechanism under the convention under Article 20. Therefore, it is part of the convention and is legally binding to be implemented. We have repeatedly mentioned our concern about the fact that despite the legally binding nature of the use of this mechanism to provide funds to all countries who have the right to use this GEF, that we have repeatedly noted that a range of countries have been limited in their access. And we are of the view that that is not only unacceptable, but is also a direct violation of the legally binding and legally significant
provisions of the convention. In this paragraph, we noted that in the last part of the paragraph, which in the English version begins with the words, and access to the financial mechanism for all eligible parties for the full implementation of the convention.
And welcoming the valuable role of GEF. So we believe it's a mistake that it's staying at the end, because it's welcoming access which is really not provided. So our suggestion is very simple. Just this portion, as I read it, we should move right after Article 21. And that will help us to agree with the entire document, because otherwise it's hard for us to proceed with this document, although we understand all importance of it. But we like that all substantial paragraphs and annexes, they equally apply to all of us and not only for some of us. Thank you, and I hope that this suggestion can be addressed, as it actually doesn't really change the wording as such, only the location of the last part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russian Federation. So just to be absolutely clear for myself and others in the room, the paragraph would then read, reaffirming the importance of the full application of provisions of Article 21 and access to the financial mechanism for all eligible parties for the full implementation of the Convention, and carry on with the paragraph as it was, and welcoming the valuable role of the Global Environment Facility, etc., etc. On the understanding that that is correct, Russian Federation, did I have that right? The floor to Russian Federation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, you are absolutely right. That's exactly what we were asking for. And we're absolutely happy with the rest of the paragraph and absolutely happy to welcoming the GF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russian Federation. I see Iran. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Iran also support this change to help eligible countries to have legally access to the funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Iran. European Union, please.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. We would be in favor of sticking to the text that is between brackets. We are a bit worried that reopening the first paragraph would be a pathway towards reopening all clean text. We have spent 4 contact groups that have been very long and agreed on text. So we would favor not reopening agreed text here, clean text, and just focusing this working group on the paragraphs that have brackets. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I certainly understand your point that we don't want to reopen vast amounts of text in this CRP. Nonetheless, it does seem a potential way forward. Could I ask if you are prepared to be flexible on this? Sorry, European Union, is there any flexibility on this?
Sorry, Madam Co-Chair. Well, if there is an understanding that it is not a way to open all paragraphs that are clean. We could be flexible on having this addition, but we would really favor not having it for all paragraphs, and would be understanding that it's just on this paragraph.
Thank you very much, European Union. I think we would all welcome a speedy review of this CRP so that we can finish our work here. So I thank you for your flexibility, and with that I take it that preambular paragraph 1 is approved with that amendment. Thank you very much. Paragraph 1 is so approved. Moving to preambular paragraph 2, recalling Article 21. I see no requests. Preambular paragraph 2 is approved. Preambular paragraph 3, reaffirming the commitment. I see no requests for the floor. Preambular paragraph 3 is approved. Preambular paragraph 4, reaffirming also decision 11.5. I see no requests for the floor. Preambular paragraph 5 is approved. The preambular paragraph recalling decision 1423, paragraph 13. I see no requests from the floor. Preambular paragraph 5 is approved. And the final preambular paragraph, reaffirming the importance of the review of the effectiveness, etc. I see no requests from the floor. The final preambular paragraph is approved, and with that the preamble is approved. Thank you very much. Moving therefore to operative paragraph 1, welcomes the report of the Council of the Global Environment Facility. Can we approve this paragraph? Thank you very much. This paragraph is approved. Paragraph 2 takes note of the importance of. Paragraph 2 is approved. Paragraph 3 requests the Global Environment Facility to include in its report. Paragraph 3 is approved. Paragraph 4 urges the Global Environment Facility. Paragraph 4 is approved. Now, as paragraph 5 refers to Annex 1, I would like to move to Annex 1 to consider that before we come back to paragraph 5. Annex 1 on the 4-year outcome-oriented framework of program priorities of the CBD for the 8th replenishment period is in sections, and I propose to take this section by section. Could we approve the first section of objective of Annex 1? I see no requests from the floor. That section is approved. The section on elements. I see no requests from the floor. The section on elements is approved. The section on additional strategic considerations includes the square brackets that have been referred to earlier. Could I ask first whether paragraphs 5 to 9 can be approved? Paragraphs 5 to 9 are approved. Moving to paragraph 10. You have heard the proposal by the co-chairs that the brackets are removed around the words benefit biodiversity and are also, and that the words are nature positive are deleted. Could I ask whether that is an approach that has the support of the room? Are there any objections to this approach? I see none. So with that, we will approve paragraph 10, removing the brackets around benefit biodiversity and deleting the words are nature positive. Thank you very much. Moving to paragraph 11, the proposal made was that the brackets are removed from and or, and the wording would become and/or, as is in target 8. The proposal was also made that, and I will be corrected if I have this wrong, that the words at the end of the paragraph, I believe from respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples and local communities, be deleted. Could I ask if there are any objections to those proposals? I see none. Thank you very much. Paragraph 11 is approved with the brackets removed around and or, and it would read and/or, and the removal of the words respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples and local communities, etc. Could I ask us, therefore, to approve paragraphs 12 to 14 of Annex 1? I see no requests from the floor. Paragraphs 12 to 14 are approved. Paragraph 15. The proposal was that the words in the first set of brackets be deleted and the brackets be removed around the last wording. The brackets be removed around, in particular, least developed countries and small island developing states, as well as countries with economies in transition. Noting the request by several parties that this issue be taken up by the COP. We also note that it was requested that the issue be taken up by the Bureau. The Bureau is not really in a position to discuss this issue, and it is better discussed by parties as a whole within further discussions of either subsidiary bodies or the COP. So could I ask if that proposal is acceptable? I see Iran.
Thank you very much, Madam. This is the suggestion of Iran is not related to that paragraph. It is related to one of the elements that we have raised several times in plenary sessions and also in the contact groups. Since the number of delegates from Iran, because of not receiving visa, was limited, and we were not able to discuss it in the contact group, and when after that we asked the co-chair to insert an element for consideration. So I would like to add an element that is very important for some parties. We request the assurance of the allocating international resources by Jeff. But we think that the text has not reflected the concerns of some eligible party who have faced with restrictions in accessing Jeff fund. So we would like to insert the element of removal of all barriers and political restrictions to access fund for all eligible parties. after access to funding in the first line. Can I read the text? The GEF in its aid replenishment period should explore ways to significantly improve the access to funding and the removal of all barriers and political restrictions to access funds for all eligible countries. And the text continues after that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iran. So we have, I noticed that you said eligible countries. The text reads recipient countries, and I assume that would be, should read recipient countries. Iran, you have the floor.
My suggestion was eligible parties, all eligible parties.
So in that case, the proposal is that it would read, the GEF in its 8th replenishment period should explore ways to significantly improve the access to funding for all recipient countries and the removal of all barriers and political restrictions for all eligible parties. Thank you. Bosnia and Herzegovina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This intervention is answer to your question about proposal of co-chairs for suggested way. After really very long discussion in contact group, we are very grateful for suggestion of co-chairs, and we would like to support their suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I see Argentina. Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Argentina is not satisfied with the proposal by the co-chair. We understand that there were discussions, lengthy discussions, and honestly, Argentina does not understand why the majority of the developing countries are not in agreement with the Article 21 of the Convention. It seems that the arguments that were raised were going to cause confusion in reading the document. It was lengthy wording, and it was going to hide the real reason why there is opposition to having a list. And we reiterate the intention of when this convention was negotiated. So in the spirit of cooperation, we said that if our concern was taken into consideration in the bracket, we could then accept it, but we are sorry to see that not even that was taken into account. We would therefore request that what we asked for throughout the negotiations, and we were very flexible, we accommodated a number of requests from developed countries on accepting terms, despite not always being 100% happy with those inclusions, but we agreed that in the spirit of compromise, that was the best for this conference. Nonetheless, we now see that not even was a list accepted that had been agreed upon by them. And therefore, we think that in this instance, Argentina is asking that in this situation, the entire list be taken into account and the rest of the developing countries be maintained in this paragraph.
Thank you very much, Argentina. And I see Brazil. I would hope that we would not get into a lengthy debate on this issue because I think we are not going to resolve it in this working group. But Brazil, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This delegation shares the view that Argentina has just reminded us of when Article 15 was negotiated in the contact group. And we agree with the request from the delegation of Argentina as a way to resolve this text that remains open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brazil. My proposal on this particular issue is not to take up any further time in this working group, but to keep it in square brackets and send it to the plenary in brackets in the hope that a resolution might be found in discussions between the parties in the meantime. Could I return to the proposal made by, the European Union? Is this on this point?
Sorry, I was about not to comment on the list because I agree with the way forward on having the brackets brought to plenary, but on the addition by Iran. But I can come back later if you want.
No, that is exactly what I was moving to, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have expressed on the first preambular paragraph, and we have shown flexibility on that we were only agreeing to reopening a part of the text that was clean if it was just for this paragraph. And we have heard, if I recollect it, my recollection is right, the delegate from the Russian Federation saying that he would be ready to accept the rest of the document if this insertion was made. On this understanding, we would call the delegate from Iran to show flexibility on removing this proposition here, with the understanding that the first preambular paragraph has been modified, and that in our recollection, this exact text that has been quoted and inserted here was not part of the discussions in the contact group in this wording. Thank you.
Thank you very much, European Union. Iran, I wonder if a way forward might be for your comments to be noted in the report of this working group. Would that be an acceptable way forward? You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And actually, as I said, we had only one person from Iran was in this negotiations. That was unfair, and we raised it formally in the plenary sessions, and we didn't have enough time to discuss everything in all the parallel sessions. This is only one legal and important aspect that can help us to contribute to GBF. You have seen that during these last days, developing countries have been requesting for more funds. But we, as some parties, we are requesting accessing to fund, that we all are eligible. And because of some political restrictions, unfortunately, it has a barrier to access these funds. For 12 years, we have not received any fund from GEF. Why? We are eligible. And we had this discussion yesterday. I had this discussion yesterday with the headquarters of the GEF, and they said, you are right. So please, just for helping you, you are helping biodiversity. We are helping environment. You are helping local communities and indigenous people who are engaged with biodiversity. Please put this item in the text, because there is no any place for this text, and it can help any party for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Iran. And Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On this point, we understand the concerns of Iran, but we could not support the language that's suggested here. The challenge is to introduce new text that has not been discussed in the contact group. So we could not, we don't see that as a solution. And I would guess that the addition that was made from Russia in the preamble, we were actually quite restrictive to open agreed text. But with that addition, I think the concerns of Iran should be covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. Iran, I come back to the suggestion that your comments be included in the report of the meeting as a possible way forward. Iran, you have the floor.
Please, I appeal all of your colleagues. Biodiversity has no any border. If we want to have a mega diverse country to have contribution to the GBF, that is Global Biodiversity Framework, please help us to be included in the text. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Iran. Japan, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support the comment made by Norway. The new insertion by Iran on paragraph 15 was not discussed fully in the contact group, and it might have repercussion to other conventions and other documents. For this reason, we also think the concern of Iran is well covered by the preamble paragraph as suggested by Russia and comment according to the comment made by Norway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Japan. I see there are some consultations underway. I appreciate the fact that consultations are underway, but we have limited time and we need to get back to the mainstreaming item and adopt our report. So I would greatly appreciate it if the group could report back. Thank you. Dear delegates, I'm afraid we are going to have to move on. We simply do not have more time. Could I ask Iran, if you would be so kind, as to report on whether there has been any resolution of this issue? If not, we will include the wording in square brackets and move on. Switzerland, we're moving on. Could I ask, please? Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For compromise, if it's possible to put this suggestion to preamble paragraph that we discussed, it is acceptable for us. Thank you.
I'm very reluctant to reopen the preambular paragraphs that we have already approved, and on the understanding that that would be an acceptable compromise in itself. So perhaps if we could revert to report wording to acknowledge the concerns, Iran.
Because it is very important for us, and without that we cannot access any fund. So I would suggest you can put it in the bracket and decide later. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. I'm afraid that's what we'll have to do. We'll put that word, keep the wording in square brackets, and it will be resolved in plenary unless. And I would hope that before we get to plenary, some resolution might be found to this issue. So with that, and with the addition of wording in square brackets in paragraph 5, that is approved to be sent to plenary. Could I ask that we approve paragraphs 16 to 19, therefore? I see no objections. Paragraphs 16 to 19 are approved. Could I ask that we approve Appendix 1? Appendix 1 as a whole is approved. So we will now return to paragraph 5. Could I ask that paragraph 5 of the decision be approved? I see no requests from the floor. Paragraph 5 is approved. Could I ask that paragraph 6 is approved? Paragraph 6 is approved. Paragraph 7. Paragraph 7 is approved. Paragraph 8 is approved. And that was paragraph 8 as a whole. Approved. Paragraph 9 has reference to Annex 2A, so I would like us now to move to Annex 2A and approve that annex. I note that the annex has no square brackets. Could I ask that we adopt Annex 2A as a whole, given that it has been considered previously? Are there any objections to that? Annex 2A is approved. Thank you very much. We will now return to paragraph 9. Sorry, we also need to do Annex 2B. Annex 2B likewise has no brackets. Can we adopt Annex 2B as a whole? Thank you very much. Annex 2B is adopted as a whole. Moving back then to paragraph 9. Can we adopt paragraph 9? Paragraph 9 is adopted. Approved, sorry. Can we approve paragraph 10, decides to adopt? Paragraph 10 is approved. Can we approve paragraph 11? Paragraph 11 is approved. Can we approve paragraph 12? Paragraph 12 is approved. Paragraph 13 contains reference to Annex 4. Can we now move to Annex 4? Annex 4 has no brackets. Can we approve Annex 4 as a whole? I see no objections. Thank you very much. Can we move back, therefore, to paragraph 13, adopts the term of reference for a full assessment. Can we approve paragraph 13? Paragraph 13 is approved. Paragraph 14 requests the Executive Secretary. Paragraph 14 is approved. Paragraph 15 invites developing country parties and parties with economies in transition. Paragraph 15 is approved. Paragraph 16 invites the governing bodies. Paragraph 16 is approved. Paragraph 17 has reference to Annex 3. Annex 3 does have brackets. And those brackets relate to the issue that we have been discussing previously. Could I then see whether there is any resolution of paragraph 1b in Annex 3? To remind parties, the suggestion by the co-chairs of the contact group was that the wording from in accordance with Article 20 all the way down to and parties with economies in transition be deleted, and that the brackets be lifted from in particular least developed countries and small island developing states, as well as countries with economies in transition. Bosnia and Herzegovina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we stated before, we are very supportive to suggestion of co-chairs and would like to emphasize that this wording would be consistent then with already adopted Goal B and resource mobilization document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Argentina?
Gracias, señora.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We would like to propose the same, that we have the same decision as the previous decision we made.
That we bracket this and send to the plenary. Thank you. I could see that one coming. We will do that and move on. Could we therefore, with that understanding that the brackets will remain and this will move to the plenary, could we approve paragraph 1? And in fact, could we approve the whole annex on that basis? I see no objections to that. Annex 3 is approved on the basis that the bracketed elements will be considered in plenary. Thank you very much. And with that, we will move back to paragraph 17. Can we approve paragraph 17? I see no objections. Thank you. It is approved. And paragraph 18. Paragraph 18 is approved. Paragraph 19. Yeah. Could we take paragraphs 19 to 29 as a whole? Could I ask that those paragraphs be approved in the interest of time? I see no objections. Paragraphs 19 to 29 are approved. And with that, can we approve the CRP with the elements, changes made and elements to go to the plenary? The CRP is approved. Thank you very much. Well done. Dear delegates, I wonder if we might return to the long-term strategic approach to mainstreaming, agenda item 16A. My understanding was that there was a solution close think we'll just wait until we have the right secretariat. People here on the podium, bear with us. So, could I ask the Secretariat to read out the text proposal?
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. So it would read, the Conference of the Parties, recalling Article 6b of the Convention, which requires contracting parties to integrate as far as possible and as appropriate the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity into relevant sectoral or cross-sectoral plans, programs, and policies. Reiterating the critical importance of mainstreaming biodiversity across government and society in order to achieve the objectives of the Convention, and the urgent need to mainstream biodiversity in line with the, it would change now, Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, emphasizing the importance of intensified mainstreaming action to achieve the transformational changes needed in order to attain the 2050 vision, while acknowledging the specific challenges faced by developing countries in supporting mainstreaming policies and the need for adequate means of implementation and enhanced international cooperation. Paragraph 1 welcomes the work of the Informal Advisory Group on Biodiversity Mainstreaming as reflected in the progress report of the Executive Secretary to the subsidiary body on implementation at its third meeting. And from now, this is new text. It would say, as well as the new submissions as compiled in document information 10, 11, and 12. This is the compilation that was requested. Now we have a second paragraph, requests parties and invites other governments, international organizations, and relevant stakeholders to submit their views on the long-term approach and associated action plan, and to identify ways forward to support implementation of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And then there's a third paragraph, Mrs. Chair, it would read, requests the Executive Secretary to organize an open-ended online forum through the clearinghouse mechanism to further submit views on the report 3/13, outcomes as mentioned above in paragraphs 1 and 2, and compile these views in a report including on an interim process for submission to the subsidiary body on implementation for consideration at its fourth meeting. Thank you, Mrs. Chair.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Could I ask whether this is acceptable to parties? Or could I ask whether there are any objections to that proposed way forward? I see no objections. With that proposed wording, then, we will proceed to convert that into an LDoc for the plenary. Thank you very much. That is adopted. Oops, sorry, Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brazil regrets that such important topic was not received the appropriate time to discuss among parties. We fully understand that through the organization of the work that priority was given to the GBF in its main components. Brazil still has several concerns about the way this issue was incorporated under CBD agenda, and we take note of the great importance other parties provided to this issue. Although we are not completely comfortable on the way that CBD is treating this agenda item, but in the spirit of constructive cooperation to the full and successful implementation of the GBF, Brazil is willing to continue the discussions under the CRP just presented by you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brazil. And Argentina, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Argentina would like to thank you for your leadership and the constructive approach by the delegations to try to advance and find a way forward. Even though it doesn't satisfy us all in every way, it appears to us to be acceptable and allows us to continue to work on this theme that all of us believe is so important. So thank you for the extra time granted, and to the delegations that worked on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Argentina. European Union, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it was a difficult consensus that we reached after a lot of discussions, but I would like to thank my colleagues for being very constructive in this, and we trust that we can jointly do further work on mainstreaming in the future, which is very important for the implementation of the GBF.
Thank you very much, European Union. Mexico, please.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mexico joins with what the other countries have stated, the recognition of your work and the work done by those countries in the small group to try to arrive at consensus on this theme, which we deem to be so important. And we think there has been some movement forward, and without neglecting all the discussions that we have been having on this, and this to meet the commitments we approved yesterday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mexico. Peru, followed by the Philippines. Peru, please, you have the floor.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to hear from the parties. If it is true that there are parties that are not in agreement with this, it is we, the parties that lead, that ask, that request the addressing of the different themes, and it depends a great deal on the consideration given by the parties to arrive at a solution. So I would like to thank you, Madam Chair, for all of your work, and Peru is very, very available to address this issue. It is all of us agree that it is very important, but for Peru, it is very important, and it means that all of us need to accept transformational changes for the planet. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to implement the framework. This theme is vital. It has to be examined differently. If we keep repeating the same, there will be no changes that are very necessary. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Peru, for your comments. And Philippines, I will give you the last word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Philippines joins the sentiments of all the countries that have spoken earlier. We thank very much the efforts of the Chair for giving us time to dwell more on the importance of mainstreaming in the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework. I thank also from the delegation of the Philippines for the constructive and useful interventions or participations of the countries that made this work possible, and rest assured that the Philippines will be sitting with them and cooperate once more to be able to come up with a better solution, what we want for the country, for all of the member countries of CBD, and for the formulation of a better way to move forward. And of course, we recognize the value and the importance of mainstreaming in the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework that we all want and that we all agreed yesterday or this early morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philippines, and I thank you very much for thanking me for my efforts, but I have made very few efforts myself, apart from giving you time, so the efforts were all by the parties themselves and by the co-chairs of the contact group as well, and from the Secretariat. So thank you all very much for your hard work and spirit of compromise. And I think we all agree it's a very important item. And with that, I will actually formally approve the CRP. Thank you very much. Dear delegates, we're not quite finished, but we're nearly there. We have the draft report of Working Group 1 to approve. So this is document CBD COP 15 WG1 L1. And I hope that you've had a chance to look through it. I would propose to take it page by page, noting that there are elements to be included from this morning's session, of course. So with that, could we please turn to the draft report, and could we approve page 1, please? I see no requests from the floor. The first page is approved. Could we approve page 2? That's from paragraph 6 down to we'll go to paragraph 14. It is approved down to paragraph 14. Thank you very much. We'll take from paragraphs 15 down to 24. Paragraphs 15 to 24 are approved. Thank you very much. We'll take paragraphs 25 to 35. I see no requests from the floor. Paragraphs 25 to 35 are approved. Could I take paragraphs 36 to 48? Paragraphs 36 to 48 are approved. Thank you. Could we approve paragraphs 49 to 61? Paragraphs 49 to 61 are approved. Could we approve paragraphs 62 to 67? European Union.
Thank you, Chair. We have just a minor technical correction with regards to one of the co-chairs of the contact group, namely Carlos Albuquerque. He's not the delegate from European Union, but the delegate from Portugal. And we would like to make this a slight correction in the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, European Union. That will be done. And with that, we approve to paragraph 67, and the whole report is approved. Thank you very much, and I think that that takes us, oh sorry, the report is approved, thank you. So, dear delegates, that brings us to the end of Working Group 1. I salute you for your willingness to join us this morning after a very long night last night, and I wish you all the very best for the rest of the day. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you. Thank you very much, and my very, very sincere thanks in particular to the Secretariat and to the technicians and to our interpreters, please. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, we'll ask the Secretariat if they have any announcements. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And just to announce that there has been an update to the schedule, and the final closing plenary is now scheduled to commence at 4 p.m. So that's 4 p.m. this afternoon. Thank you.